Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Monday meeting of the BOCC. Commissioner Mortensen's out today, so you're stuck with Dennis and I. Looks like first on the list, we have IT. Thank you.
I'll give you the.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Hort, IT Director, and double trouble. I have Kathy from the Finance Office. So it looks like we have our budget information and actual, so I will pass the conversation mic to Kathy.
Okay. So this is a different format than we did on the last performance management meetings. We've taken some suggestions and made some further improvements, we hope, to the information displayed. We have the revenues and we have the expenses separated for better presentation purposes. We have the numbers for year-to-date actuals for the current year shown, and we have some indicators to help you look at those quickly. The green arrows means it's a favorable indicator from prior year. You're at exactly the same time, pretty much year to date. So that's 3 months into the year. A red indicator arrow means it's unfavorable, but it's probably, in most of these cases, it's insignificant because we don't have that much of the year completed.
So those are indicators of like the first 3 months of 2023.
Versus
not
20
indicators of where we are in budget, which is
No.
fine. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's indicators of actuals compared to actuals of prior year. And we did the same thing for the expenditures and have those quick indicators for you as well. And then when we get into the graphical presentation, it's comparing budget to actuals. And it does. So here's an easy way to remember: budget is always a blue color and actuals are always a green color. And what we did here is we were also asked to look at what is the actuals as a percentage of the budget number. And so we added those to the graphs as well. So you can see on, so the different categories, for example, goods and services, which is where most of the revenues for IT resides in. This year, we're already at 96.8% of the budget. And that's because we do annual billings. And most of the annual billings have been issued and paid, except for a few. Then you look at prior year, which is the lighter blue and the lighter green, and our budget, our actuals were 100% of budget. So that's some of the things that we changed in this presentation. We did the same thing for expenditures. The one thing to note is that accruals have not been recorded yet. And so in many cases on these financial statements, revenues will be impacted both 23 and 24. In IT's case, they have very few accruals related to revenues. So their revenues are pretty much not going to be impacted by the accruals not being recorded. But many of the other departments will be impacted that you'll see today. We also look at expenses compared to budget, and you can see that last year in the personnel area, the expenses were less than what we had budgeted. They had several vacancies. And And then on the expenditure side, supplies were less than what we budgeted, as well as services were less than what we budgeted. Most of the supply number is, the largest category there is their software maintenance, annual maintenance contracts. And then they did have capital last year, but we're not budgeting any this year, pretty much, because that was the telephone system.
Mhm.
And I think there was one, server, there was a server that was purchased last year too, a major server. So, and then we have the footnote area to help explain any unusual fluctuation that we might see. So that's the gist of this new format. And looking for any suggestions you might have to keep further improving it. It's a moving target, of course, because when we run actuals, we're running them live as of whatever date we have up in the left-hand corner. So,
Yeah. And it's like any review of this type, the further we get along in the year, they get
more
Closer,
solidified,
yeah.
so more solidified the trends and the, so, and our personnel is showing a favorable this year compared to this time last year, but that's because we've only booked one payroll for the month of March, and last year has 2 payrolls. So all of them are going to show favorable, but in the end, after we finish March, it'll be unfavorable because of the fact that we have our personnel expenses in most departments is increased because of COLAs.
one, just because it hasn't been my experience, no capital, but nothing in capital for this year. IT is,
We have had a purchase for HallServe One, which is our file server over at the Hall of Justice for that campus and the surrounding areas. So there will be capital expenditures.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're probably going to have a budget amendment.
yeah, I've just seen a lot of budgets over the years, and IT changes so much, so quick that it's unusual to not see capital somewhere in there.
And we didn't present they have a reserve account, and we did not
Right.
present that right now at this time. So this is just their normal operating account.
Good.
Any other questions? I'll let Kim continue her presentation.
Looks like we're good.
So for the upcoming month or things that have happened in the past month, I will be attending the ACES Spring Conference. That is the Association of Counties and Cities, where the IT teams come together and converse and have presentations and such. So I hope to have a favorable experience. Giving an update in regards to some of our cybersecurity events and training and such. I provided a summary of our last phishing campaign. We provide these monthly where we send out a spoof email to employees. And I am happy to report that our numbers are continuing to go down, which is good. That's an indicator that people are becoming accustomed to being suspicious to emails that, look irregular. Detailed graphs are provided in Appendix A of the document that I gave you. In Appendix B, there's the graph of our email gateway traffic. It provides to you how many emails we are receiving and sending and how many we're blocking and the number of viruses and advanced threats that we're receiving. And it only takes one. So again, I appreciate our staff being aware and taking the time to be cautious with emails. We are rolling out additional patches, so you may get alerts on your computer again with Microsoft patching. They're becoming rather frequent, so just giving a heads up on that again. And then our NIST 2.0 cybersecurity framework was released, so the IT team is reviewing that. This is a standard that provides security benchmarks and framework and guidelines to drive our cybersecurity goals from. Any questions thus far on the cybersecurity category? We're continuing to work on the Hall of Justice Court Security Project. We have gotten a final sign off from the internal services and court security teams where they've made recommendations on the proposals. And then our total project budget is $264,000, with a good chunk of that being a grant from the Association of Courts.
These are the cameras and stuff.
Yes, this is primarily going to be infrastructure for door locks. So this is like key cards and kind of replacing the systems that we have now, plus a few additional cameras.
I know we're working on, or we're looking at possibly a little bit of reconfiguration. Does any of this get impacted? Do we know?
We took that into consideration and luckily, no. This is a scalable platform and
Okay.
we're focusing on the exterior security. So, and then kind of working our way in and up through the building.
Okay.
Server room updates. We are still working on the large network switch that was also purchased through grant funds last year. Lance Hollinsworth is our lead engineer and he's doing a phenomenal job. And he's also giving a great training opportunity to Hunter Reeves, who's picking up a lot of knowledge from this project. We are working on our Hall Serve 1, which again is our central file server for the Hall of Justice. They are replacing the hardware and we are now in the stage of copying over the data. It's a very large file server. So there will be intermittent maintenance windows. So there'll be disruptions to departments over at the hall, but we will definitely do our best to coordinate around everyone's schedule. For example, like doing things after hours or on the weekend.
I want to make sure we're not misreading your outline. The Hall Serve 1 is not here in this building, but over at the Hall of Justice.
Correct.
Okay.
We are also looking at upgrading our GIS infrastructure, which would bring us to the latest version of the Esri software platform, plus securing that infrastructure. And then for survivability and just making sure that we don't have interruptions to service, we are working on installing some batteries, which go in the bottom of our servers. So when there's a power outage, we do have backup generators, but this will allow that hardware to run off of that battery until the generator kicks on. So we are working on that. And we're continuing to develop procedures in IT. Those have been rather lacking. So I'm happy to report that the team is working collaboratively and we're trying to streamline our processes, applying the lean methodology to eliminate waste. And I am still working with our legal team to establish a use of technology policy and account user policy. These were policies that were required from our CJIS audit and have been yet revised. And so we can get that to the board and workshop that. Kind of a summary of some of the projects that we're working on. We are working with Public Works and internal services to identify a mass notification software and doing demonstrations with those vendors. We have streamlined the Verizon wireless phones, the mobile phones, to where IT now oversees the purchasing. So rather than shifting from the purchasing office specialist buyer buying those devices, IT is now taking that on where we can order the phones, configure the phones, and then deploy it to the department. So there's less hands and hoops people are having to go through. We are ironing out that process and do appreciate people's patience and understanding. I'm not going to go into full detail about all of these projects, but we're working on a large project with District Court, Public Works, and their project costing software are both, that's going well. It's my understanding. We've partnered with their vendor, Cascade Solutions, and I haven't heard anything negative other than that project's going well.
So Kim, on building and planning, I've got just a little bit of question with their software.
Sure.
The Acela is designed to assist with the permitting process as well as inspections, I mean, getting all that information.
Mhm.
But in the process of approval of those permits and occupancy and all that stuff, there also is contact made with road department because of access points, as well as the environmental health unit, which is part of DSHS. Do they have access to the Acela, so it's all in one package for the customer when they get to building
I'm
department?
not entirely sure about Public Works having access to it, but EHU does have access to.
Maybe access probably is not the right one. Do they use that just so that all the information is automatically placed on?
I want to say yes. Okay.
Oh,
So
good.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
What we're looking at now is,
EHU as well, do you know?
yes,
Okay.
I know that one. Yes. The document interface is how we are storing the records that are being generated from Excella. So it's going into our centralized repository. So that's the project we're working on with them.
Usually when I get complaints from somebody about the permitting not breaking down, it seems to be a connection with getting the road standards or the road permits or solid waste approval, review from EHU. So it's good to know that there's no IT blocks or barriers. Thank you.
And then to conclude my summary are some upcoming contracts and purchases. We are, again, working on finalizing the Hall of Justice building security addendum. And then we are getting a final count for the desktop and laptop rollout replacement. It is one of our larger years. So the number will be expected, but on the larger side. We're finalizing the quote and I should have that to the board in the month of April. And then there's a couple of licensing providers for PeopleSoft and our landline long distance. I'm working with legal on the master license and service agreement. So hopefully those two will also be presented to you in the next month.
So let me back you up real quick, just because I didn't hear on the policies and procedures that this come about because of an audit, you said, and who
Yes.
does?
These are required policies in order for us to be compliant to our criminal justice information system.
And who does the audit?
It is facilitated through the Washington State Patrol, and then IT did the
Okay.
technical audit with them
And how often do they look over?
every
it?
3 years.
Every 3 years?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we did pass our audit. They took the draft form of the policies. I just want to finalize them and present those to the boards as actual resolutions.
So they gave us a pass, but they had some suggestions, obviously. Yeah, okay.
Staffing status, we're fully staffed, or we still have vacancies, or?
We have 2 vacancies right now. And so we are working with HR to clean up some of the job descriptions and present a office layout and training strategy.
And how's the work getting done? Ending.
We
Yep.
have out-of-class pay, so we have people stepping up and doing overtime or out-of-class work, or we're having to delay some development projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I made a comment about hearing complaints from constituents. And I always have to be mindful of the fact that we usually only hear one side of the story. We need to reach out to staff and make sure that information is valid. So I wasn't dumping on EHU or road department.
Good. Thanks,
Thank you.
Ken. Roads. 500 some odd miles of roads.
Kathy, we should just have you sit right here. Just stay the whole time.
You take it
Okay, good morning. Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. And these are financial reports, performance reports that we've prepared. It's, like I said, this is a new version. We're trying to make these very useful and explanatory. So for county roads, I would have to say that on the revenue side, things are very preliminary because of the accruals that have not been recorded yet. So there's quite a bit of impact for 23 as well as 24. Once those are booked, will be not so preliminary. So you will note that for the current year, we have favorable indicators compared to this time last year. But I think those, hopefully those will stay favorable, but things will start to change a little bit. And then on the revenue side, again, the blue colors are budget and the green colors are actuals. And so of course, for current year on taxes, we have very little of our tax revenue in right now. Last year, we exceeded what we had set out for the budget on taxes. And a little bit, that will change. Like I said, there's some recordings that need to be moved back that probably will get larger once the accruals are booked. On intergovernmental, this is a lot of different programs, federal as well as state. So those numbers may change due to accruals. Goods and services, it's really not material considering their total activity. And miscellaneous is primarily, we far exceeded the budget last year on miscellaneous because of investment income. And then other financing sources in this category are primarily related to ARPA. For the current year budget, you see a little over 5 million budgeted, but that's related to ARPA projects. We don't anticipate, in talking with Sean, we really don't anticipate all of that ARPA money being expended in 24, but we went ahead and budgeted for the full impact of it to provide them the flexibility of budget capacity. On the expense areas, we have all favorable indicators for this year compared to 3 months of last year. When you look at budget, the bar graphs, you'll see that we're on track this year for almost all of our expenditure categories. It's just 3 months into the year. And then the personnel for last year was less than budget. And then also all of the other categories except for supplies was less than what was budgeted. Supplies, I think, fluctuates greatly depending upon what's occurring. So far, good trends and on track, looks like.
Yeah.
It's always difficult to figure out where we are with these kind of budgets because every year is different because it's a whole
Yes.
different set of projects, first of all, and the unexpected project wouldn't be budgeted. And so that throws your numbers off when that occurs. And the grant revenues come from all kinds of different sources that don't always show up one year after the other. About the only thing we can measure, I think, and maybe that's subject to an awful lot of change, is how much progress are we making on the 6-year plan? And even that is still subject to availability of funds from sources that we don't necessarily have control over. We can ask, and you do a good job of asking, so.
Like when a Rock Creek blows out.
Yes.
Any other questions for the financials?
I think we're
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
So I thought I'd give y'all a little update on our construction program this year as kind of one of our performance review items. They didn't think I was funny with the first review I wanted to say, so we're not going there. So 2024 construction project status is what I was going to go over. So we have
I love the title of your first page.
construction project
No.
status,
Next one, the first page.
the rollover.
Construction project, that is a rollover.
It's a
That's just,
rollover.
that's funny.
So that is actually Ostrander from this fall when we were setting the beams on Ostrander Bridge. So I thought I'd put a nice under construction project in there for us for this year. So on the next page, I put on our 2023 rollover projects, and those are the projects that we started construction in 2023 and we are finishing up this year. The Cathlamet slide repair, which is what is on the right, that is probably about 90% complete in that photograph, is now completely complete. And then we have the Ostrander Road triple box culvert. We got the final lift of asphalt down last week. Now we're waiting for another dry window to put in our striping. They're finalizing the cleanup and the planting, and that project will be complete very shortly. So that's always nice when we get things tidied up for the public. So we'll move on to the big projects for this summer, South Cloverdale Road, Confer Road intersection, and South Cloverdale Road reconstruction. We're anticipating, we'd like to go earlier, but we're looking maybe September. 90% of the right-of-way is obtained. It's a $6.1 million project with $250,000 coming from the road fund. And yes, I have made progress with my environmental question that we discussed earlier. We have gotten firm direction from WashDOT on what we need to do to get it approved, and we are working that out while we're getting that last property. So we should still be on track for that September bid date.
It's the tire dust issue.
The tire dust issue, exactly. We come up with, we have enough property to treat enough to make it possible. So we're doing a design on that, and it won't require obtaining any additional property. It just won't be vacating some of the road bed that we are not going to use in the new roadway. So we are proceeding with that, and as long as right-of-way goes, we should be good to go. The next project is the Eric Creek Culvert on Abernathy Creek Road. This project is at milepost 5.35. It is currently out to bid. Our bid opening is April 10th with a June start date. It is a $2.6 million project with $0 in it in this particular case. So this was a nice, came through Protect funding. We have two safety projects this year. We have countywide guardrail and roadside delineators. These are, the specs are at 95% complete under final review from WashDOT. So we should be advertising an opening in May. It's a $650,000 project with $60,000 of local money. The predominant this is all new guardrail. This is not a repair project. This is guardrail in locations that are on our hundreds and thousands of location lists that we're going to add guardrail in our system. The next project is Dyke Road reconstruction, the milepost 3.05 to 5.32. So that's from about the scale house down to where we stopped the last project.
This
It's
is Dyke Road in
Woodland.
West Longview.
No, this is Woodland.
Woodlands Dyke.
Woodland Dyke Road. And it's a $2.1 million project with a $500,000 local match. That is coming from our CRAB partners. Slag Creek Road repairs, this has been on our 6-year plan for a while. And because a lot of our projects are bidding late this year, so we have their match available, and I moved this project forward to go into construction this year. We're going to call for bids in April. We have all the right of way. It's $310,000 all local funds. As you can see, as Sean told me to tell you, the slide is sliding into Slide Creek. So the project will relocate the road into the embankment on the right of that photograph.
How old are the latest cracks in the pavement? Have they been there for a long time, or is it active? It's an active side.
It started activating again in 21, and we have not had to move those delineators, but any rainstorm can reactivate that, so we might as well get it done when we have the opportunity. These are 2022 flood damage repairs. The Hazeldale Road milepost 1.78. That photograph is a picture of the temporary repairs. That's some ecology block that we placed to hold it up. This is going to be replaced by a retaining wall. It's 600,000 approximately ARPA dollars, 300,000 road fund dollars, and that will be going out to bid next week. We're calling for bids on April 2nd. West Side Highway, milepost 4.08. We're going to call for bids in June. This is about a $500,000 project with 100,000 of local dollars in it. The other is ARPA funding. Kalama River Road culvert replacement. This is at milepost 2.04. We're going to call for the bids in April. Our other Kalama River Road, our road crew did, but due to the depth of this particular project, they did not feel comfortable doing this project. So we're going to go out for a construction contract. It's about a $200,000 project, just over $200,000 project.
I take it this is not Kalama River, but an unnamed creek.
This is an unnamed creek that discharges to Kalama River,
The
correct?
most common name for creeks in Calais County, unnamed.
Unnamed, yes.
We've got a lot of.
We have several fall advertisement projects. So the Allender Road Bridge replacement, that is WashDOT funded. Rock Creek Culvert, the Tower Road, replacing that temporary bridge, which is what that photograph is of, and then the Pleasant Hill Road Culvert replacement. And that is a FEMA funded project. And the last page is our 2024, our standard maintenance projects. So we are doing a chip seal program this year. We're going to go out for a material bid in April, $1.8 million chip seal program this year. Our overlay, also an April bid, will be a $2 million project. Striping, $700,000. That's a May bid. And we call it our unit guardrail repair project. So we do this as a rolling project over a 2-year period. And we periodically give the successful bidder a package of, here are all the guardrail that has been hit and end sections. Please go fix them. We get a bid price for those items that's good for 2 years. So we're estimating our first round will be about $500,000 of what we currently have damaged to go out and repair.
Any possibility of getting that parking strip along this building overlaid? It's going apart.
Over here, that would have to be through facilities or the city of Kelso if it's the part of the roadway.
I can't tell. Looks like an old patch that's kind of all worn out.
Yeah.
I think it's almost open to the bowels now, but underneath, so. Rain, freezing, potholes happen.
Yeah, the pothole would freeze thaw.
Till I started seeing your presentations, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to guardrails. Now I notice them. These are like bumpers in a bowling alley. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it just, it amazes me.
In our last contract, they went and they fixed one at the intersection of I believe it was Bond and Powell. And they were down the road a piece, a day, day and a half later. And they were like, hey, remember that one you just fixed? We need to go back and do it again because it was already hit.
And they just spontaneously occur. Nobody knows how it happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got from Castle Rock High School to my house is like 4 miles. And I know this is state highway, but there's 2-3 sections that are just, I don't know, I don't know how they hit them all the time, but they do.
It's
You said
amazing.
it's close to a high school.
From Castle Rock High School to my house is like a
Yeah.
4-mile span.
Okay.
And in that 4 miles, there's 2-3 sections that are just wiped out.
Young drivers do have a tendency to be learning.
Learning, yes.
Yeah. And no, my vehicles aren't scratched on the side. I did get, and this kind of surprised me on the safety projects, the signs and stuff. I don't know if we all got from some, and I don't have it right in front of me, so I could be a little bit wrong, but was complaining about some signs that were put up.
Yes, we are currently, and I forgot to include it in that, working on I missed one of our rollover projects. So it's a rollover from last year. It's our curve warning sign project. So they are out currently installing signs. Commissioner Mortensen had forwarded an email to me about someone on Green Mountain Road, I believe.
Mountain,
Yes.
blocking his view of the river or
Eh,
something.
we've blocked a view of the Columbia River, and we place signs on his property, and it's just going to cause more speeding. Curve warning signs are supposed to be for the drivers that don't drive the road regularly. And it's a low-cost run off the road avoidance safety measure, and they are all within the right of way. And I have never seen research, but it may be out there, that says when you put up curve warning signs, people drive faster. That was his hypothesis in the email I received.
Even something simple draws
Yeah.
comments at times, or what we perceive as simple.
Speed bumps and stop signs are about the only
Yeah,
way
well,
you
and
can get them to stop. or
don't get
slow
me
down.
going on roundabouts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sean's mouthing to me I forgot to ask you guys. Well, on Wednesday, we ran out of time. So this is a miscellaneous non-performance review item. So we have CRAB documents due this week, our annual from last year's, and they require a signature from the chairman of the board. So I was hoping to ask if you guys would give permission for him to sign our certification that we did not do a diversion from our levy or a levy shift form that it's an annual form that I usually just bring.
Go for it. I'm okay with you going for it, signing it.
Okay, thank you. It will be DocuSign like last time, so it will magically show up in your inbox as well.
That's convenient, but sometimes stuff shows up that's not supposed to be there yet. It always throws me off. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Health and Human Services.
Hi, good morning. Gina James, Health and Human Services. Kathy has some of the financial reports she's been going over, so she will let her start with that.
And we have several. I hope I may have missed one, Carol, so I may not have all 7. Yeah, start with whichever one you have is first. Okay, so we have, the first one is Human Services. And so this one, again, a word of caution, because there are taxes and intergovernmental, the accruals have not been booked or recorded yet. And so they could have a dramatic impact on the numbers. So I'm hoping we'll see some stability after those are booked. But for the most part, we're showing favorable trends this year compared to last year, the same time. Intergovernmental there's really hasn't been anything recorded so far. And so that's showing unfavorable, but I don't think that that's accurate. And as a percentage of last year, everything it's actually very close. Like, for example, taxes is 98%, but that's going to change once we've made our accruals, I'm sure. And then intergovernmental is showing greater than budget, prior year budget. And the same thing is true for miscellaneous. So nothing major there. And then on the expenditure side, we're on track. We have favorable trends showing there compared to this time last year. And our prior year budget versus expenditures, we were well within budget for all of those categories. Current year services on these, you'll notice that for the current year, it's a fairly high percentage, being that we're only in March, but that's because most of their services are interdepartmental charges, service department charges, and they pay those on an annual basis. So they're already paid.
You might have said this, but are these coming to us at the end of each quarter? Or on a quarterly basis, or are we monthly, or where are we at?
We can run these monthly. What we're anticipating is as performance management meetings happen, we'll be running
So-
these
so
for
if they're
that
scheduled
department.
Every quarter, then we see them every
Quarter.
quarter. I'm just,
Mhm.
so the next time around, would we expect all these accruals to be accounted for?
Depending on what time of the month that they come up. So the accruals
I
for,
mean, like at the end of April,
yes, at
should
the end
all
of,
that stuff be done?
yeah, the majority of accruals are done. Revenues, they accrue based upon what's received in the first 90 days. So yes, April should be the month that we see most of this solidify. Mhm.
For now, okay.
So Kathy, these charts that we're beginning to present, are they available to the public?
We're not,
Accessible if,
yeah, we're not posting them on any website or anything like that right now.
so, and one of the reasons I'm asking is this is a campaign year and we never know when candidates want to get some background information. If we're talking about it and the document's available, you might anticipate making them available, as a public document, saving the time, effort, and energy involvement of doing
So-
a public records requests, because
Yeah.
they all have to be made
Yeah.
available, but
They'll be
I mean, think about it. I
Yeah.
mean, I know
Yeah,
it's all
the-
kind of new and we're getting it.
Yeah, it's
but-
new and right now I'm hesitant to put anything on the website. Like, for example, in this case, I really want to have that background discussion, just talk about the fact that accruals are not in, things like that, and the footnotes. We're trying to do our best to gather all the footnotes, but we also because we revised these several times last week,
Right.
we didn't get to spend the appropriate time with the department to discuss them and have an interaction as far as having good footnotes that they have an input into as well. So I think once we get on a regular schedule and we get these more quality controlled, checked as well, then I wouldn't mind putting them out on the website.
So another thing that might be reasonable is just to say, these are all working documents, or you can. label
For
them as
discussion
drafts or
purposes
whatever,
only.
But quarterly, kind of have a quarterly document,
Right.
because yeah, we can spend a lot of staff time generating charts and stuff, but
Have
what's
something
going to be helpful
static.
is if it's static, because at the rate you do it now, depending on what day you ask for the document, it's going to be different.
Right.
So that
It's a
would be hard
moving
for people to
target.
compare. Yeah, so I like the information coming forward. And eventually I would expect, working with the department heads, we'll be able to put the department goals so that we know. Right now, it's just what's being spent or collected,
Right.
which is good information, but
And these,
it's difficult to know if we're making progress toward the goal, if the goal is not listed. so.
right. So on these also, I'm anticipating that these will also help us look to see and to give you a heads up on any major budget amendment that might be coming as well, or the need for one.
Yep.
Can I go to the next, or y'all
Mhm.
go to the next one? Because there's, like I said, there's several. The next one, Bailey, and I'll just follow whichever one you pull up. Okay, substance abuse. So on this one, again, preliminary revenues, being that it's intergovernmental, there may be some accrual, there will more than likely be some accruals that'll impact the current year and the prior year. So, there's a really, has very little, the majority of their activity is intergovernmental on this one.
These are the pass-through grants we get from the state, right?
Yeah, I believe this one includes DD and CJTA.
Oh, in addition to mental health.
The 1/10 is in a different fund.
Yeah, it's
So this
next.
is CMH, so community mental health. Isn't that what that?
Old title to the fund.
And so again, because it's primarily intergovernmental, the revenues, you'll notice that the revenues pretty well track with the expenditures because the expenditures are based upon what revenue comes in. So,
Now, could some of these be a little, when you look at it in graph form, be a little bit misleading because you're given a grant from the state, say it's $6 million, but how much you actually get of it is on a reimbursement, so you don't always use it. So you could have a graph that say, well, we awarded 6 million for the year, but we only got 4. And that would be a little bit misleading. Now what you take in on the revenue side should more match up with the expense side because what you're expending is really kind of generating what's coming in.
Right,
Is that
exactly. It's
pretty
almost
close?
backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard, that, like I mentioned, this combines sort of 2 of our state contracts. So this has the numbers combined into one. I have a hard time looking at it because I'm used to looking at the separate
Yeah.
program budgets, but, so that's
Some of
another
the
piece
stuff
of it.
from HHS could look a little different. You just got to
Yeah.
understand how that funding works.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. And if you'll notice, prior year actuals were 1.4 million and your prior year actuals on revenue and expenses are fairly close because it probably is primarily reimbursement based.
Yeah.
Any other questions? That one's pretty,
We just need to adjust that heading so we know it's not just substance abuse or mental health or there's DD.
okay. That's the name of the fund.
Yeah.
So,
Man, that's the name.
okay, I'll put something in parentheses. How about that?
I don't, in fact, it is old because I don't think we've actually had
Yeah,
community
kept-
mental health since I've been a commissioner.
Yeah.
That was an
catching-
old way of, an old approach when there was a big staff delivering the services.
Yeah, I don't know that we can change the title of the fund.
You might have to have a parentheses
That's,
on the backside.
yeah, known as.
Yeah.
Code,
No one else.
code,
Yeah.
AKA,
Okay.
AKA Gina's funds.
Bailey, you want to go to the next one? Okay, and this fund is actually where the mental health tax is coming in. Behavioral health mental health, behavioral health taxes are coming in. You'll notice that this year's budget compared to last year's budget is significantly less because of the sunset of that tax. And we also are showing that in the graph that last year's revenue actuals exceeded our budget. And so then miscellaneous is primarily investment income on those funds. Expenses, when we move over to expenses, we're showing that primarily the biggest part of the expenses are transfers because most of the departments consuming these funds are in the general fund. And so there, we transfer the funds to those departments and they have the actual expenditures. There is going to be one change budget amendment that's going to impact expenses, and that has to do with the professional contract associated with the sheriff's office for the mental health professionals. And instead of using a third-party contract, they're going to now have those expenses in the sheriff's office. And so that's going to be a budget amendment that's going to be coming later. It's pending till we had all the final numbers. So again, expenditures as far as transfers, last year's was right on track with what we budgeted. And so far this year, there hasn't been any transfers basically recorded yet. So I assume that will be a catch-up fairly soon when the departments submit their request for reimbursement. Okay, next. Okay, Health Department. This budget on the revenue side, they definitely will be impacted by the accruals because of the fact that they have intergovernmental transactions. So both current year and prior year will change on the actuals once those accruals have been recorded. They're showing several of these as unfavorable, but I think it's just a matter of the timing. And on the revenue side, what other things? I don't have any other footnotes. On intergovernmental, it's showing that we've received quite a bit of our revenues. I'm not sure, but I think these are ones where you receive the revenues up front. And
And if
so
you don't use them, you send them back.
have to return them. So there's a lot of volatility because of that. And then license and permits, pretty much last year's budget was very close to what their actuals were very close to budget. Goods and services, same situation there. Miscellaneous, I'm sure it has to do with investment income being recorded. And then on the expenditure side, because it is most of their expenses are related to grants, the intergovernmental grant. They did not spend all of their budget for personnel or all of their budget for services, but fairly close to what was budgeted. And I don't really, I just know that intergovernmental is up on our budget this year, but so are our services are also expected to increase as a function of that.
This includes the figures for EHU and infectious disease and what else?
Communicable disease, EHS, EHU, who else? Vital records.
Vital records. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, next. Okay, low income housing. On the revenue side, the predominant revenue source is intergovernmental. So as I said, it may change with the accruals being booked. And so just a little bit of tax revenue here that it hasn't been booked yet. So that's why current year is 0%. Now, on the revenue side, there's nothing that I'm concerned about. We may have a issue with this one that I need to double check, because it seems odd that the revenue for current year actuals 106 in all three categories. So I may have we may have a formula issue on this one that we'll double check. On the expenses, we're the predominant expenses in the services area. And then also we're going to have a budget amendment that's pending that hasn't been recorded yet. It's been approved by the board, and you also approved the action to disperse and award some grants on this account. And so those will be coming. And so they
I
just.
think tomorrow we have two actions tomorrow for community houses, youth, youth housing, and for the city of Kelso's CAP, West Kelso Commons contribution. So virtually no personnel expenses, because these are, we send them out to the other projects. So we did Sunrise Village, and we had, what's the other one? Campus Towers. I think those are and they all run through this program.
Yeah, and so there'll be a decrease in the budget for ending fund balance and an increase in the budget for services based upon those approvals. So this one's going to change pretty dramatically on the next go round. Any other questions on this?
So,
one?
does that chart show the revenue that we're getting with document recording fees, or is that handled someplace else? Because those monies are already in in the system, the ones that we've been giving away. So the revenues won't change because we've already got that money, right?
I'll have to look.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the majority of the revenue here is from contracts.
And these figures probably don't, like, IT has this fund over here, this capital fund, whatever you want to call it. This wouldn't really indicate stuff that's already sitting in it. I mean, if you have a block of funds that are sitting in an accrual account or whatever.
Yeah.
Like IT has, wouldn't the previously collected doc fees kind of be the same? They'd be sitting over.
They'll be sitting in your ending fund balance if they haven't been
So,
expended.
so we have them, but they not necessarily would show on like this year.
Right, and that's one of the amendments. We're going to reduce ending fund balance and increase services to make those disbursements. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm wondering if
It's
it
hard.
makes sense to have a fund balance, part
It's,
on there just to show so, yeah, we know, I keep going back to IT, but we just talked about it. We know, we can see what IT has going on for this year, how they looked last year, and this is their fund balance that's accrued. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
So on the expense side, the ending fund balance helps depict there's $4.7 million right now.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
it's
It's on
showing in there.
Showing.
All right, okay.
That's where the narrative ends up. Eventually, the narrative becomes very helpful in decoding.
Yeah, decoding things.
Okay.
And we hope to get better at on the footnotes so that we're anticipating the types of questions and things, so it'll be in the footnotes as well. Okay, next item. Oh, okay, you got it up. I didn't see it, Bailey, thank you. The opioid fund, this one, there's basically only one revenue source coming in on this one. It's miscellaneous. This is the disbursements from those agreements that were. that-
The
law-
lawsuits.
Yeah,
that-
this money that came from the state. And so current year revenue is way over budget, but that's because we're going to make a budget amendment soon because we didn't know or have the exact dollar amounts that were going to be coming from the pharmaceuticals. And so several of those made their disbursements in the month of March. So we just received those, and so we'll be doing a budget amendment for that.
And we currently don't have a program set up to spend them. That hasn't been approved yet, right?
No.
Yeah, so last year's funds are basically sitting in ending fund balance pending that. So I assume that eventually we'll be seeing budget amendments on the expense side, and we'll see the budget amendments on the revenue side as well. That's it. And I missed one. I'm missing veterans.
Oh,
I
that's
knew I was missing one more, but I couldn't remember which one. So we missed veterans, sorry.
Okay.
And veterans is one with a huge ending fund balance that they,
Right around 800,000 roughly, give or
Yep.
take.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever the commissioners request, I'm happy to come and be support for the revenues, financial picture.
You know, speaking for myself, I'm fine if you do it on a quarterly basis and we see you often enough, you tell us if something was way off mark, I would think. So I don't know, maybe the other two would like to see it more often, but I come from an area where I'm used to quarterly. So
Quarterly reports,
I'm
yeah,
Good
yeah.
with quarterly.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Kathy.
Thank you.
I had one more item. I know we're right at 10 o'clock. To talk to the board about, we received regarding document recording fees, we received another emergency fund application request. We received a request from the Salvation Army for $4,210 to purchase shelf-stable meal kits for the event of severe weather events so during the last few cold stints that we had locally, the Salvation Army helped to provide meals for the individuals staying at severe weather shelter and the warming day centers. And I know it was quite a task for them. And so they've put in a request to purchase for the emergency fund to purchase shelf-stable meal kits so that they've offered to purchase them, store them, and then if there is a severe weather event, that they would deploy the meals to if there's a shelter that's opened or a warming shelter that has opened, so that individuals who are accessing that shelter can, you pour water in and mix them, and or they might be a canned item to provide a meal for those individuals staying.
So this is not designed to provide food at Hope Village?
No,
So
No.
it would be a kind of on an emergency type basis.
right.
When
It's
the
spec-
emergencies are declared, then They would be available.
specifically for severe weather events. If there's a shelter that opens for severe weather overnight or the day, sort of warming sites that we've seen open up in the last few months.
Who's taking care of that before the Salvation Army? Or have they always been doing it?
I'm not sure. I know this year they provided meals. They explained in their application it was challenging to make the quantity of meals on kind of short notice when they declare and then get together and make the meals. So are asking to have these meals just sort of on site ready that they can just take over and they can be prepared by mixing water or just heating up. So I'm not sure if there's interest in supporting the request. I do think if they proposed a specific organization to order the meal kits from where the meal kits are only 12 months shelf stable. So I think if the board were interested in supporting, I think I would just recommend that they look at an option where they have a longer lifespan. I know there's some out there where, they're shelf stable for 25 years or something like that. I know, just sort of like, do you want to eat that? But I would hate to have, for them to have to toss a bunch of things out in a year's time if they're not used. So,
How many does $4,000 buy?
so that would purchase 600 shelf-stable meal kits. So I think their estimate was 150 meals a day for up to 10 days. For that. They also had said in their application, there's a discount on shipping if you buy 1,200 meals, which would be almost double, but for the company that they looked at, it would be 600 meal kits, good for a 12-month period.
And this is proposed to come out of
Document recording fees.
the recording fees.
Mhm.
And we have the budget capacity to handle that,
I mean,
especially after tomorrow.
we have a lot going
We're
on.
giving away $2.6 million tomorrow, so,
Mhm. Yeah.
but 4,000 seems within reason.
I might have to mull that one over, because
Sure.
I keep wondering, I know it's an emergency, but we have a cap kitchen, I'd rather pay somebody to come in and fire up and do hot stuff if I could.
Yeah.
Probably gonna have to think about that one,
Okay.
Gina. if that's
No
okay.
problem. Let me know if you think of questions later or want more information.
600 meals,
600 meals.
$4,000.
Yep.
Wow.
I'll
okay.
send over the application and the items. So you could take a look at it.
You might ask them to contact CAP and see if that kitchen is a possibility. I don't know to what extent that kitchen's being used right now I think it's their Meals
they-
and Wheels.
Yeah,
prep
I
area.
think if they'd be open to it, I'd rather spend the money to fire up the cap kitchen
Yeah.
and do
I
it
think
hot. I
part
don't
of-
know if they are.
Part of the challenge, part of what they mentioned, I think it was mentioned in here, that when we have severe weather, a lot of times staff call out. So then, if they had planned to fire up a kitchen, if the cook is stuck in the ice or stuck and snowed in or something, then there's not someone to come and prepare the meal. So I know that was part of the thought too, but I'm happy to have further.
For that part, I'd rather pay Salvation Army to fire up their kitchen and do hot if we could. Just ask and check it out. That would be my personal preference, is just getting people hot stuff instead of mixed with hot water, I guess.
Some of those meals are
I-
pretty tasty.
Oh, I got. If
Okay.
it's good enough for our army, I guess it's good enough for us. huh?
I mean, when you're camping, I think everything tastes good when you're camping. But,
Yeah,
okay, I will have more conversation and we'll circle back on that a little bit later.
okay. Do you have any Miscellaneous, or we'll head right into agenda review if we're good? Since you're sitting at the table, want to do that?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
So we have, as Commissioner Weber mentioned, we have 2 items on the agenda tomorrow. We have a contract with Community House on Broadway to help support construction costs for their youth shelter project. This funding, as I understand it, primarily is going towards renovating the area that was the Carriage Restaurant and turning that into both cafeteria space for the youth staying at the shelter, as well as potentially a work opportunity site for the youth as well. As well as some other, I think there's some HVAC and some security costs as well in there. So that project, we had workshopped this a few months ago. So the board had approved a $2 million with Community House for that project. The other item is a contract with Lower Columbia CAP, who is helping with the construction of the Catlin and Maine project with the city of Kelso, working on that project. This one, they had come and shared information. I think they've been to the board a couple of times sharing information. So the board had approved $695,000 to go towards that project for that as well, going towards those affordable housing units. So those are the 2 items we have on the agenda for tomorrow. Is there any questions on those 2? No? Okay.
These are 2 that we've already approved. Now we're just looking at finalizing the contract. From my understanding, the group that spearheaded Sunrise Village is spearheading the Kelso project.
The Catlin and Maine project. Mhm.
Oswa is not the person on this. They've chosen to run it through CAP, but it's still the same group that spearheaded. Sunrise.
Community
It's pretty much-
frameworks.
Yes.
That the agency.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So the only question I have on these contracts, because I know when we did it, say, when we did this senior unit, we're talking about seniors and stuff like that. And when we talked about the center downtown for the youth, our concern was kids in high school that are trying to still do education, but they're having housing issues. How do does the contract kind of keep them on that path? I mean, I would hate to see it turn into a teen drug rehabilitation center or the seniors be out because you got people coming out of jail now that they're finding housing for them. You know what I'm saying? Because we approve them on expectations that we're headed down this path. How do we stay on that path?
Yes. So good question. I'll have to look specifically. I don't believe our county contract includes, like sometimes you'll see a commitment to use it for the purpose for 20 years or something like that. I don't think our contract has that language in it right now. We could certainly add something like that. I know at least for Community House, their contract with the state has some of that language in it that they have to use it for the purpose for, I think it's 15 years. I'd have to ask Frank, but so I think there's a period of use in that contract, but
Would you be able to double check that
mhm.
for tomorrow?
Yep.
We've committed the funds and I'm good with that.
Mhm.
I'm good with the contract. I just don't want the purpose to,
More.
yeah,
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting last week when we were at the groundbreaking for Sunrise Village. Part of the speeches, which went on and on and on, did include an outline of the different categories of people that were eligible for the various different apartments, people with disabilities, seniors. I think veterans were another group, and all of it had to be within 3 different levels of poverty. So 40, 50, and 60% of the poverty level or something like that, median income, I think.
Yep.
So it's kind of more rules and regulations to monitor for that instance, but
Yeah, oftentimes,
Frank's probably just that one category.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a similar type of variety of targets
mhm,
for the
Catlin and Maine.
Catlin
Mhm.
and Maine
Yep.
project in Kelso. So-
Oftentimes with the state and federal funding for these housing projects, comes with some of those ties that they commit to having certain units set aside for specific subpopulations, and the funding source will hold them accountable to that.
Gina, to your knowledge, are any of these housing grants going toward case managers?
I don't believe so. I know with Housing Opportunities, with their Sunrise Village project, that was a conversation they had with us at the county about potentially helping to support at least just sort of the startup of getting that case management service on site so that they can have that. It's often not included in those, the housing, those are mostly capital awards.
I think our board made it pretty clear that we're not interested in hiring staff. Yes,
Yeah.
but helping with construction.
Yeah, we did. I think for Sunrise Village, we did talk a little bit about some of maybe just a startup support, but definitely not the ongoing operational support.
That's the level of support that helps keep the clients on track towards whatever treatment program they need to
Mhm.
resolve their
Yep.
homeless status.
Yep, help
Yeah.
them to be good tenants and whatnot. Mhm.
I mean, I would love to see, Frank hits this running 5 years down the road, we see that 90% of the kids run through there actually graduate
Mhm.
and move on,
Mhm.
you know.
Yep, we'll have to invite
That
them
would-
back
that
and
would be
share.
cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So does Community House still get funds from one of these programs for homework assistance? Didn't we have that as part of some of our ongoing support for them?
We, for a few years with one-tenth,
Okay. yeah.
right, they had applied for some funding to do some after-school homework tutoring with the youth at the shelter. Yeah, so I think we were involved in that for a couple of years.
That was the community programs that we basically dropped
Right,
as the jail medical costs kind of exploded.
yes. Yes. Okay, so I will double check to see if there is any of that language in our contract template for those contracts. There's a few other contracts. They're not on the agenda tomorrow, but they will be either the week after or the following week with Emergency Support Shelter for their shelter operations. This contract, last year, the board approved a match component.
Yeah.
So their base contract was $100,000. The board approved an additional $50,000 in matching funds. They were able to draw down that $50,000 in matching funds, and for the $150,000 total. We in processing the renewal, we continued as it was with last year, but I did want to just touch base with the board to see if we wanted to continue the match component for another year, or what the pleasure of the board is. Like I said, I just included it because it was part of last year's contract. So if there's other thoughts on that, we can adjust it.
I'd be okay, continue with it. I think, the design was, we're hoping, well, if we get the public to help support that, then we'd be willing to match that. And it looks like they did.
They did.
And so I think that's a win on both sides
Okay.
for them. So I'm okay
Agreed.
continuing that concept.
Okay, great. The other contract that will be coming up with Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington. So this is a contract for that case management support at Phoenix House. This has previously been, this contract has previously been with Cowlitz Family Health Center. The Phoenix House has always been a partnership between HOSWA and Cowlitz Family Health Center. And Family Health Center has decided they didn't want to continue to do the case management at that project any longer. And HOSWA said, we already they already manage sort of the rental side of it in that aspect, and they're willing to take on the case management side of that as well. They did ask for slightly more than what we had been in contract with Family Health Center for. The Family Health Center contract was about $85,000, and HOSWA is asking for $133,000. they wanted to add some hours in the evening for the case manager to be able to work with individuals who are working or going to school during the day when the case manager, when the sort of the daytime case manager is there, they can't always meet with some individuals who are working or attending school during the day. So they've added some hours for an evening time case manager. So I wanted to just kind of briefly talk about that a little bit and see if there's a desire to increase that for that additional support or continue with the status quo funding as we have been.
Do you remember why the one group wants to get out of it?
I know they've, over the last couple years, they have shifted directors and they're trying to just kind of scale back a little bit on some of the sort of extra services that they're providing. So this was one area that, and knowing that Haswa was willing to take it on, they were ready to hand that off.
So,
It didn't really fit their mission anymore.
Right, right.
so it's just, we're switching an existing contract from one provider to another.
Mm-hmm.
And Hoswa is asking to increase a little bit because they want to add some hours to it. Are these reimbursements?
Their cost reimbursement.
If we do it 85 or we do it 133, we only spend what they actually bill
Right,
and we can
mhm.
reimburse for.
Yep. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
I'm not opposed to Hoswa taking that over. I might want to hear what they plan to have to do different or what they see that was been lacking in the other that they can fix. Once again, I like to get a handle on what the goal is. Sometimes, success, they define it, well, if we get this building built, that's success. Well, to me, that's not success. That's just a step.
Yeah.
The success is that it generates what you expect it to generate. So that's what I would ask of Hoswell, what they expect it to generate and how they monitor that.
And again, with Phoenix House, that's not considered permanent housing, but more transitional housing as the women have graduated from drug court. They're reunited with their families and they're in a safe and secure housing to get their feet back on the ground, get
Mhm.
jobs, and then move on to more permanent housing, right? I mean, 2 years usually is the length of time that they can stay at Phoenix House.
About, yes.
About, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a hard and fast rule, but
Right.
yeah, it's not designed to be permanent,
Right,
so.
right. Yeah. I know I'm happy to connect with Haswa again. I know the additional case management time is what they were suggesting to have some evening time. I do know, Haswa was happy to continue with the status quo amount of the 85,000 and continue to look at the needs and if there's adjustments, maybe try to, come back and explain or things like that. So that's we could move forward with the 85 and kind of as they start doing it and work through some of that. And
I know Jennifer came in and chatted with me, but it's been quite a while and I know this was kind of on their radar.
mhm,
So I did chat with her a little bit about it, but, I'm 68. Things, you got to tell me twice sometimes. So it might be, I wouldn't,
So a question that I did have, however, is whether or not SAMHSA funds could be used. Because it gets into that, providing the kind of support for people to, to move away from their addictive behaviors. It's part of the treatment program. And I know there's been a huge attempt to allow housing support as an allowable expense for treatment as part of the treatment program.
mhm.
That's been very difficult to get through the feds, but they're coming around to that.
Yeah, I do know they're exploring, I think Haswa is looking at being a foundational community supports provider. they could provide the supported housing and supported employment services and get reimbursed by Medicaid for those services. I'm not sure if their plans include expanding it to this project, but that's certainly something we could talk about and see if that could be an option, because that could be a way to save some of that case management.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but that was a program we worked with. I think it was with document recording fees with Community House to train their employees so they have access to Medicaid. And that actually is what was the beginning of the core
Core health. Mhm.
element for Community House. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a model that works for that organization. I suppose it could work for Oswald as well, if they want to get into that.
Yeah, I think they are on one side of their program areas. So I'm happy to talk more about if that would apply here, if that person could get trained in that as well. So that could help with some of that case management cost.
I actually think they're probably a pretty good fit for this. Oswald.
Something they've not really done before, though, although at at Phoenix House they have, so.
Yeah, I think they've, in managing the units, so many units, and with the set asides of serving certain populations, I do think they find that being able to provide that case management support is helpful in keeping people stabilized and housed.
And would that be, or could that also be an allowable use for the opioid settlement funds? Because the common denominator is somebody who's
Yeah,
Mhm.
got
There
the
are
addictive
7
problems
pages.
and they're trying to
I know.
get-
7 pages.
We could look at some options for that.
I'm just remembering that document recording fee revenue's gone down. I mean, so.
Yeah. Would would the board be okay with the 85,000 moving forward with that amount and then continuing to work with Haswa on what the additional amount may look like, or the reasonings and the work and those types of things, and also looking at the foundational community supports and maybe other ways to offset the case management?
I'm not opposed to either one of the options you've thrown out there. I just would kind of like to get a refresher. And I know she sat down with me and another person, and they did have some goals and they had some things. And I think I just need to get a refresher on it. When we're talking about a reimbursement program, you're only going to spend what they're going to be able to bill you for
Mhm.
anyway. So sometimes the dollar amounts I can be a little bit flexible on. It's not like, here's 130, do with it what you wish. It
Okay.
really has to have some results to get that back.
I agree. I think go ahead and respond to their full request. And, you're gonna bring it back to us and we need a little bit more information on
Okay.
what they're gonna achieve with the evening hours.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I think that was all I had. The other contract that will be coming up too is the Family Promise. We had them come and share, and the board supported, I think it was $40,000. So
Yeah.
we have that contract ready as well. So that'll be coming in the next few weeks.
Has it been about a year since we've seen them?
No, it's been a few months.
This is a new program for us, though, right? We haven't spent money for it
Right.
before.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So,
They seem to continue to struggle to try to get an ongoing program. It's been tough through COVID and everything.
yeah.
But I know they're active across the street at the old Presbyterian church. Is one of their locations.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all I had on my list, unless you guys, if you had something for me.
You sure? That's all.
Okay.
Promise. That's it.
Thank you.
See sheriff department on my list, but I think all it's for is tomorrow we have 6 different or 5 different interlocal agreements with the local law enforcement for records after hour services. I don't think
It's
there's
just
any.
continuing the
It's just a
agreements we've had
continuing
with them
thing. I
for a
don't
few
think that's
years.
That's a big issue.
Yeah, I don't have any questions or concerns on those.
So. Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners. Savannah Clement, Public Works, and I have with me Sean Rowe, Finance Manager at Public Works. And so we're going to go over a couple of our agreements we have on the consent agenda for tomorrow.
You're going to do what?
We're going to go over a couple of items we have on consent.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. First one on our list is item number 6, which is a contract usage agreement with the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services. Currently, we have a active agreement with them signed in 2013. They have requested us to update our agreement. This is a service that the county uses quite often, and we'd like to maintain access to those contracts.
And so what this is when we say it's on state contract, this is just renewing our agreement with the state, allowing us to piggyback off of all of the contracts that they secure. Just a little segue from this, and we'll also be bringing the board what I would consider a smaller interlocal with Department of Enterprise Services for some of the facility upgrades we're going to be doing this year and next year at the Hall of Justice. So the smaller HVAC unit in the old 911 space, the electrical panel upgrades, and then hopefully our larger HVAC overhaul project, which we hope to start next year. So anyway, so that's just a little segue. So you might see another one here in the next couple weeks, and that's why.
So we've had this with them since 2013.
And likely before that, but our 2013 was our most recent, which is pretty old.
They're just
Yep.
saying we'd like to have a clean copy.
Yep, I'd like to update a copy of it.
Okay.
Next up on our list
Back,
is-
back in the day, we used to piggyback on agreements,
Yeah.
other good contracts. And then the state said, you can't do that unless you have one of these agreements ahead of time.
Correct.
It seemed like an unnecessary extra step, but
It is another step, middle person step, call middleman.
Taking a little bit of control from you, Dennis, a little at a time.
Next up on our list for tomorrow, on consent number 7, is the contract execution for the JR Stordahl for removal of dredge materials at the Cook Ferry area. And that is a reminder, we did go out to bid on this last year. This is just the
Yeah.
final step on it. Savannah here is passing out a map to orient you to the area that we're talking about. And they will be paying us $2.06 per cubic yard of material removed, with a minimum of 150,000 yards of material to be removed. This contract does go through the end of 2025.
is this at the south end of?
It is.
Yes, so a couple weeks ago at one of our public meetings, we did have a person from the audience who had expressed concern about holes at Cook Ferry and riding horses through that area. That's actually the area she was referring to as the northern part of Cook's Ferry.
Mhm.
And we did look into that. I think that what she was referencing, because we hadn't started this yet and we didn't have a contract in place, was just some of the pilot holes that have been dug out there quite a while ago. So we did look into that, but this has not started this project until the board executes this agreement. And just a reminder, the funds from this enterprise will go to parks directly
They go to
by
parks.
RCW.
Yeah.
So we're already kind of gearing up. It's exciting to start some of the smaller projects in this area funded by parks and this revenue.
So we've sold dredge spoils before from this site.
Maybe Patrick knows, not in my time here at Public Works or the county. So
Good morning, Patrick Harbison, representing Lexington in this case, Lexington Flood Control Zone District. What you're remembering, to get this project going, Lexington Flood Control Zone District came to the board and came to an agreement with the board that they applied for all of the permits and everything to get this going. And in exchange for that, they are taking about 105,000 cubic yards of material off this site for one of their projects, South Fork McCorkle Dam raise. And so they've done about 2/3 of that, and they'll be coming back for the rest of that when they can.
That's the North Lexington subdivision.
No, this is right at the end of Sparks Road, all the work that
Sparks Road,
happened there.
okay.
There's another 13 feet that goes up. They're working on securing the rest of the funding for that. And once that happens, they'll be able to put the rest of that in. But that's the sand that came off earlier. And if you go out there now, you'll see some areas where you can definitely see some sand has been, or some dredge spoils have been removed.
But it wasn't from, it was from this site also.
It's from this exact site.
Yeah. And they contract with Stordal.
No, the contract on this one, Lexington contract with Nutter, and it was used
Oh.
as a grading permit.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
We went out on a tour of park facilities several years ago, and this was one of the sites because of access conflicts with the neighbors. And I'm assuming that's the house that's just off in the lower right-hand corner of the map. 'Cause we ended up putting some big bullards or to block traffic.
We did, yes, that's the site you're remembering
Okay.
on that one.
And it's also where the fishing cabins had been. which-
Correct.
And are they in the picture, or did they all get removed, or are they in
Um,
various states of disrepair?
I'm not sure.
The fishing cabins are some private stuff further north. There's some stuff further up Cooks Ferry Road,
But they were in the park. They weren't on private
Yeah.
property. Yeah.
but yeah, they're a little further up north.
And so there is fishing access on this property.
Mhm.
We are maintaining that outside of the zone so people can still enter, drive to the waterfront and do any recreational activity down there. That'll be outside of the excavation area.
And your map here shows a property boundary, but it looks like there's a creek bed or something flowing through the middle of it.
So that is actually a old spur off of the Cowlitz River. It came up and back down. I believe that's from the 1930s to 40s region.
So it got covered with dredge spoils.
So who owns the
Really?
roadway? The
Yeah.
road? Who owns this stripe in the middle? That's,
We do, yes.
But you were saying it was part of the river, right? Not a road. It was part of the
Not a
river
river.
originally.
that was part of the river.
Yes,
Mhm.
not a road.
Around there.
It was part of the river. And then,
And so DNR must own that little strip or something?
It came to us with the entirety of Cooks Ferry.
Oh, the map's just out of date.
it's an old, yeah, it says it's an old reference to, like Sean mentioned, I think 30s and 40s prior to Mount St. Helens erupting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to have Will Tastad, Facilities Maintenance Manager, come up and speak with Sean about this next agreement.
So the last item we have up for the consent agenda tomorrow is, sorry, the second to last, I apologize. Got ahead of myself. Is amendment number 1 with Edit Architects. Previously, they were known as Collins for on-call engineering and architectural consultation services. So this item tomorrow does officially do the name change from Collins to, is it Edda, Will?
Yep.
And extends it out to April 30th, 2025.
I take it Craig has retired?
I think he's still there.
Yeah.
But with the name change, there's, additional staff as well.
He said out to April of 2025.
Yes, till April 25.
So in case if you're wondering how much we've used with the approval of up to $100,000 We've only used them so far on 2 projects, which was foundation research at the Hall of Justice. When we had that leak, wanted to make sure there was no damage. There was also some water spots on some concrete there. So we had them come in for that. We also had them do a design for the spray shop. So as of now, we're right about 17,000 out of that 100,000. In the foreseeable future, I don't see too many projects utilizing them in the near future. I think our projects coming up for CIP and capital improvements are, we can do the scope in-house. At some roofs, some HVAC. So I don't see that increase coming up anytime soon.
So if my memory serves me correct, the original architect for the Hall of Justice was John Crook, a local architect, who hired a young guy out of college called Craig Collins. And so
Okay.
there's that long-term
Yeah, me either.
I'm pretty sure he was in on that at the very beginning, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to play golf with his dad, who was
Yeah.
a banker.
Okay, oh.
Yeah.
Didn't
Oh,
know
wow.
that.
The guy was in his 90s and still hit it. He didn't hit it far, but he hit it straight. He kicked my ass.
I think that's useful to know for bankers that they
Yeah.
get straight.
Yeah.
All right.
Any further questions?
But while we have you here.
Yeah.
I, I was noticing the patch, the asphalt patch right outside, which is, I don't know whether that's Kelso City or it's the parking lot on that street. It's in pretty bad shape. The potholes are down to gravel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that we can do with our own forces with some of that leftover asphalt and one of the overlays, or if that's city right away to the curb.
Yeah, we'd have to talk to the city of Kelso and see if that's their right of way or not. But I can look into that. If not. Yeah, if it's not, then we can do something about that.
It looks like it's been patched just where the parking, it's all angle in parking. And so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that lane
right on
of
the corner.
vehicle is an old patch, but it's just increasingly in bad shape.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were taking the.
Or maybe it
the
was the
tree.
heavy equipment that took care of the landscaping, but I don't know. It's not it's hard to get that whole, is that Third Avenue paved and maintained because it's parking lot, but not parking lot. And
Yeah, yeah, we'll look into it.
thank you.
Thank you.
And then for real, our last item this morning on the consent agenda is an interlocal agreement with CDID number 1. Pretty much to provide any services, construction or maintenance and other items as needed. Most of the time, these are going to be signs or rock or things of that nature. And so, not to be confused with DID number 1, which is in Kelso. This is the Diking District for Longview.
The Longview Decking District.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's just maintaining the same agreement we've had with them.
So we've never had one, it looks like, in all of our research. We have one with everyone else, but so we're getting them on the books so we can help them out as needed.
So this is a new agreement.
Yes, sir.
So they're providing the service to us, or we're providing the service to them?
We're providing the service to them.
Okay.
This agreement's similar to the interlocal agreement that we have to have with any other agency. It just allows us to be able to perform work for each other. Of course, the work's not free. You know, we would be charging for any services or products that we provide them, but we just have to have this agreement in place on record to say that we can do work with each other. Did that answer your question? Sorry, maybe I misunderstood because I was coming from the,
We're just
The
curious
bench.
as to why the change, what has changed
Oh,
with them that
oh.
they need the additional help?
not sure.
I think they really just want us to make some signs for them.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
Simple as that. We should be able to handle that.
At a fee, I'm sure.
Yes.
Apparently there are some curve signs that could be used.
That's what I've heard. We can take them out. I think people would like that. That's all we have. So unless the
it.
board has other questions for us,
Okay,
that's it for real.
All right.
I
Thank
think we're
you.
good.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We have,
No executive sessions?
we do.
Oh,
At 11 o'clock, she's coming in. Okay. Can we, why don't we just recess for a couple minutes?
okay.
Maybe send her a note and tell her if she wants to come in early, we'll be here. Okay, we're back from recess. Human resources. I'm told you're excited you get to deal with this.
Of course. Good morning, Casey Hellam, Human Resources. So we do have one request to fill. So IT would like to fill one summer hire position.
It's that time of year, isn't it? Yeah.
What was the position?
It's just summer hire.
Oh, summer hire.
Yeah.
Yes.
If summer gets here, Kim,
It's-
if you hire him,
You
will
miss-
summer be here?
You missed,
that a
you missed
promise?
it. It was it was earlier this month, right? Summer. You used summer help last year, didn't you?
Kim Hort, IT Director. Yes, we've used IT summer help for a number of years. It's a budgeted item. This is a formality to fill the position. They typically do our physical audit every year, so they go around to each department and assure that, our assets are still accounted for. And then they assist with various projects.
They're not really doing the audit. They're gathering the information. There's somebody else that is interpreting, right?
Correct. They gather the information and
I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
that. Go forward.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. And then we have the 2 executive sessions left. So that's it.
2 of them?
Yes.
I'm showing 3 listed here, or are they?
The third one's a maybe. So we
Okay.
just have, the performance of public employee and then the qualifications of an applicant.
So those are the 2 we're doing right now,
Mhm.
qualifications and performance of a public employee
Yes.
and time estimates
Probably 5 minutes to start, I would say.
for both of these?
Yeah, a piece.
5 apiece?
Yes.
Okay. We get those done in 5 and 5. I'm gonna let Jessica know that she's gotta speed it up. Okay, we're back from executive session. No decisions were made. Turn it over to Casey.
Okay, so the first request, so it comes from Office of Public Defense, and they would like to start a public defense attorney at step 6.
The gentleman with like 17 years experience and a lot of history.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Okay, and then the second item is from Building and Planning. So they would like to take 2 of their associate planners and move them from step 1 to step 4, effective April 1st.
Again, a combination of outstanding performance and education and seniority. I think that's fine.
Perfect. Thank you. And that's all I had.
Okay,
Great,
thanks.
Thanks.
Did we have anything else? Any miscellaneous? I think we're,
Our list is done.
do you have something? Oh,
Oh, you
Okay.
do? Oh,
and this is on security risks. This was the one that was a maybe, but now it's a permanent. How
okay, let's go.
long?
How long? How much time do you need?
I think we need 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Okay.
So we'll go into executive session for security risks, 20 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're back from executive session. No decisions were made. I'll turn it over to Kathy.
Okay, Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. On behalf of our risk management area, we have an opportunity through Department of Homeland Security and specifically their cybersecurity infrastructure security agency to have an evaluation and assessment performed for the benefit of the county. And so I'm requesting that we move forward with initiating that assessment
And that's it. Just to be clear, at no cost to the county.
at no cost to the county. And that assessment would possibly happen this summer. And the buildings that we would do the assessment on have to be determined, but we know that Hall of Justice is probably one of those areas, as well as the administration building.
Okay. I'm good with it. I think we
I'm
both
good.
are.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for today? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.